What is up, Gig Nation? Welcome back to the channel. Today's topic is a really important one. We're going to talk about Instacart and how certain Instacart shoppers have been seeing Instacart customers tip baiting. So in this video, we're going to go over exactly what tip baiting is, how often it's happening, why I'm bringing it up now, and what my recommendation is for Instacart on how to modify their tip settings so that this no longer happens to Instacart shoppers. So the whole reason why I'm bringing this up is because recently it's been kind of blowing up in the news. CNN covered it a couple of days ago. Business Insider covered it today, but it's been going on for a while now, and it's been something that I have personally seen in a couple of batches. It's something that's been brought up in the Gig Nation Facebook group, so it's definitely a problem. But the question is, how big of a problem is it really? So let's take a quick look at this CNN article. I'm going to show you guys their perspective. Then I'm going to show you guys my batches from a couple of weeks ago. Within some of those, I did see tip reductions. I saw one tip fully removed, and I also saw a tip or two that was increased after the delivery. All right, so if we pull up this CNN article, we can take a deeper look and see exactly what's been happening. So a couple of different Instacart shoppers have been interviewed, and what they said is that essentially they accepted batches. The payout looked really good. The tip was, maybe upwards of $20, $30 before they got in there and did the shopping. They went ahead and delivered it. Felt like they were helping, contributing during this pandemic. But after getting home and having put themselves at risk of possibly contracting an illness, they realized that that tip had entirely disappeared. So let's give this a little bit of perspective. Right now, there are a ton of Instacart batches out there. A lot of people don't want to go into grocery stores themselves to shop. They don't feel safe. They don't want to contract something being in a public place. So they're going to Instacart, and Instacart is seeing all of these orders that they hadn't previously seen. They're seeing a huge influx of demand with new customers. There aren't really enough shoppers to fill all of these orders and to complete all of these batches. So Instacart's been hiring. They've been trying to bring on 300,000 new shoppers just to complete these batches. And customers are out there oftentimes, throwing a batch out there, wanting to get those groceries quick, and there just aren't enough shoppers to pick them up, so they sit around for a while. And you have a few customers here that are apparently taking advantage of the Instacart tipping system, which shows shoppers those tips up front, but allows for the customer to adjust those tips after that batch has been delivered. And so there's both good and bad here. If you're a normal subscriber to the channel, I talk a lot about different gig economy apps. So personally, I'm a big fan of apps like Instacart, apps like Grubhub that give you this information up front, but there are also some downsides. You do find some customers who are going to take advantage of it. Not as much on Grubhub because they don't have those tip adjustments, but Instacart really has this problem. But the question is, how big of a problem is it? So let's take a look at my earnings. I don't have a ton of earnings, but I'm going to pull up a week from a few weeks ago where I was doing quite a few batches. I wanted to get out there and help as much as I could, and I was kind of curious on how Instacart was handling this increase in orders. So if you look at some of my batches, you can see on some of them, I did actually have the tips reduced. Most of those were very minor reductions, less than $1. One of them I actually had the entire tip reduced, and that was only a $7 tip, so it wasn't a big hit. And a lot of these batches are really good payout from Instacart without the tip included, so I haven't been too worried about losing that tip. And I've gotten some other really good tips in here. One of them was as much as $30, and a couple of other tips were actually increased after I made the delivery. So, customers were really happy with my service. They wanted to increase that. And if you read further into the article, Instacart, they did say that more customers had increased their tips in the adjustments than those that had decreased it. So if you take their word on that, it doesn't really look like this tip baiting thing is as big as CNN is making it sound. CNN really just took a story here. It probably went viral on social media somewhere, and now they want to, get as many views as possible. So they reached out, they fished for some Instacart shoppers. They were unhappy, and they're really publicizing this as much as they can. Now, that's not to say that I don't think this is a problem, and I actually personally have a solution. It's very simple. Instacart could take this solution, or they could make it a little bit more complex. But the idea is simple. If a shopper adds a tip in the app before a batch is completed, in order to get that customer to pick it up, they should only be able to reduce that tip by a maximum of 50%. That way, if they're really unsatisfied, they can get some of that tip money back. Sometimes batches, are not delivered in the way that they should be. Sometimes there's just not enough items to be picked up. Shoppers have to refund those. And while that's not really the shopper's fault, the customer might be upset that they didn't get the food they wanted. Rightfully so, if they reduce that tip a little bit, that's fine, but the full reduction should not be available for customers. That is something that Instacart should absolutely be changing right now. Let me know what you think. Have you been seeing your tips reduced, taken away completely? Do you feel like you've been baited as an Instacart shopper? Or all in all, do you like having this tip information up front? Personally, as I mentioned, I think it's better to have that info up front, even if you occasionally lose a tip to a tip baiter. There are bad people out there, but most people are good. Most people aren't tip baiters. So overall, I don't think this is a huge issue, but I'd love to hear your opinion because obviously I don't know it all. I just know what I know from my experience. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for all of the latest gig economy news, more Instacart news, other gig economy app reviews, because you really got to know it all. You got to have other apps at your disposal. We've seen this in the last couple of weeks. Uber and Lyft went down. For those drivers, they have to have other options, whether that's delivery, shopping, or something else. We cover it all on this channel, so make sure to subscribe. And I want to give a quick shout out to the Gig Nation Facebook group. If you're a member, thank you for bringing up this topic a couple of weeks ago, long before CNN covered it. I really like, that we're engaged and covering the important issues. If you're not a member of that group yet, make sure to join it. And also check out gigsharks.com to find all of the latest gig economy jobs in your area.